Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we are talking about Tokyo Revengers Tenjuku Arc, also known as Season 3 for this week's choice. But before that, we were just kind of chit-chatting a little bit, talking about how Rick's in possibly an unsafe environment right now. We will find out if he blinks twice to me during the recording session. We'll soon find out, though, for the moment. And if you want to gain a part of that wider conversation, patreon.com/featured anime podcast, $8 a month will get you access to that bonus content. And if you also want to help support us through other means or anything like that, we have all the kinds of information and everything like that, the emails and websites at featuredanimepodcast.com. And it's in the show notes. And of course, you can support us through TokyoTreats with coupon code Featured Anime. Get $5 off that very first box, and the affiliate link in the show notes. Help support us, help us grow, get yourself some nice tasty treats at the exact same time. And now, on to the meat and bro-tatoes. Tokyo Revengers Tenjuku Arc came out in October 2023, ran all the way through December 2023, and it's 13 episodes long. Couple producers for it are Kodansha, ATX, Pony Canyon. Studio for it is LIDENFILMS. It's based off of a manga. The genres are action, drama, supernatural, and Shounen, just to name a couple. And Rick, do you need me to reaccount the air dates for season 1
6 months
and season 2 for you?
Season 1 and season 2, 6 months. No, wait. Season 2 and season 3 is 6 months. Season 1, season 2 was a year. I'm sorry. I only committed the 6 months to memory. Because I was like, I'm not going to forget this one. Not going to forget this one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. From like the end of season 1, it was like a year and 3 months. Year and 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, from the end, because it aired April 2021, ended September 2021. Season 2 aired January 2023.
Okay. Fair enough.
So air date to air date, from beginning air date to beginning air date, almost 2 years.
Yeah, because the first one was 23? 24 episodes.
24 episodes, yes.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, and the next 2 seasons were fairly short.
They were in
13
comparison.
episodes.
Yes.
In comparison, yes.
Indeed. But before that, the generalization of this episode, just before we dive into it, like the brief synopsis. Season 2 ends exactly like how season 1 ended. Season 2 ends and season 3 picks up exactly where season 2 ends, with Takemichi and his friends getting their butts kicked, and Kisaki Teta comes up and he's like, basically you're going down. The entirety of the season is Takemichi going after Kisaki and the Tenjuku gangs. However, the interesting thing that you learn about what ends up happening is Takemichi, he gets stuck in the past. He is no longer able to go to the future. We will go into more details about that in here in a little bit as well. And this is basically the growth and accumulation, basically the peak for everything that Takemichi is chasing after in terms of Kisaki, and rounding up that entire ordeal with him, along with the downfall of the downfall of the final protagonists dealing with Kisaki anyways, in that regard.
Yes.
You also get some final story roundups and backstories as well along in this one at the exact same time. So you learn more about Mikey, learn more about his family, learn more about the people that are surrounding him, and about the generation 2 generations ago, which they call the Vicious Generation as well.
Yeah, they deserved their name too.
So that kind of rounds it up. I mean, like, there's not really too much I can really say in contrast to that, simply because it is basically the exact same thing. Takemichi is going through everything, trying to learn what he can about the past before trying to tackle it, and goes after Kisaki because every single time Kisaki is they're basically kind of guiding the events along to a point to where he is going to destroy Takemichi. You do learn, I do like that you learn more about Kisaki's past, why he's going forward, why Hinata in the future always ends up dying. I mean, like, it makes total sense now too, at the exact same time, as well as all the other events that were happening at the exact same time. Now, at the very beginning, what really kind of sets everything apart is you have the whole fight, the whole deal going on with Takemichi, and then he goes back to the future. And here's the part that really kind of like solidifies it, right? That I am glad they ventured with. One, they talked about like possibly Kisaki is going back to the past as well, and
that
they
was a shit show,
right? They touch on that, but and it's like the fourth episode in, when Takemichi goes to the future, he tries to find out about the Tenjuku gang, and then as he's traveling back to the past, he and major spoilers right now, major spoilers.
Yeah.
All right, skip ahead 30 seconds. Skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this. But it's like 4 episodes in. He and Nato die in the future, and he is stuck in the past.
Yeah.
Like, what
and
the hell?
He even goes to see him in the future, in the past, be like shaking his hand, and he can't go back.
Right, because
like it was.
And I'm glad they touched on that.
That's 30 seconds.
I am glad they touched on that, because that was like, what if this happened in the future and he's in the and he goes to the past, right? I'm glad that they touched on it. I'm glad they made it. It's like, hey, guess what? Now you for sure, like, you have to, like,
Stakes.
the events have to change. Like, you are stuck. You have to like drastically change the events right now for this to be altered, right? And they didn't touch on that. They didn't touch like at the and they left it beyond that, right? But one of the things like that I'm really happy about too is like when he goes back and he's talking to Nato, he's talking to actually Hinata, and he doesn't know it, right? Like when he's back there and he's talking to Nato, and he's just like talking about how he travels back in time, and he's like just desperate to try and save everyone. He doesn't want everyone to die or anything like that. Hinata ends up being right there, and she's like, "Oh, I heard it all. No, don't worry, I didn't hear anything." Quote, air quotes, but like I heard everything, and I'm glad that she's like they have that whole interaction, that discussion, and that
she trusts him,
right? And she straight up asks, like, "Are we married in the future?" And he just like starts crying. He's like, "No, but I want to marry you. I want to be with you." It's like, so it doesn't matter like between now and there. It doesn't matter at any point in time. She knows, like, in the future at that point, basically 12 years, like he still loves her and he still wants to be with her, right? So she knows, like, at that point
she's satisfied,
right? She just straight up wants to be with him because she does love him, she does trust him, right? And one of the other things too that I'm really glad they reaccounted on, or that they really touched on, is that it's not just her that finds out, and we'll touch on it more later on, but like everyone that kind of like finds out, it really starts to click for them. And the desperation that he has with him always trying to push and fight, and just like, dude, you should not be doing this. Like, why are you so tenacious? Why are you just like so dead set on not giving up? Like, what is like, there is no logical reason for this at all. And then it finally clicks for everyone, where it's just like, yeah, this is really far-fetched. Yeah, this is really out there, but you know what? it actually makes sense on why he is just so desperate at key pivotal points, why he's just like trying so hard for these one thing to happen. Why?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I guess eventually it gets to the point where everyone does know. And I got kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit disappointed that it spread as far and as wide as it did. But at the same time, it makes perfect sense as to why, you know?
Well, it's not that everyone knows, right? So you
not
know
everybody, but the pivotal players.
Right. The ones that truly matter most, right? So it's which accumulates to 3, 4, 5 for a singular moment, people.
Yeah. Now, the thing that gets me is why didn't he tell the little brother? You know what I mean? Why did he kind of hide that information from him? Because he's like holding his hand and he's
six, because he told the little brother at the beginning of the first season.
Yeah, but the little brother it's like he forgot it or something. It was weird.
It's not that he forgot it, because his little brother remembered it all the way when they were adults. And he's like, you traveled back in time. You told me this at the beginning of season 1. And that's why he was saved off the train tracks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. It's just when he was,
they just never made
kids,
it just never made the connections on why he's always coming and shaking his hand, because it wasn't even when they were adults, when he was an adult, he's like, maybe I'm the reason that you're able to go back in time, and shakes his hand. Right. So it wasn't something that they truly came to a conscientious notion of at that point in time.
Just really, really odd stuff.
Yeah. But it was worth it, right? I mean, the whole journey was worth it. The discussions surrounding it were worth it. And then again, you get more background, right? You get more background about, so like season 2, you get some background on Draken, but you get even more information about Draken's background in season 3. You get a lot of information about Mikey's background and Emma's and their whole entanglement and their information with each other, you know, how they interact with each other. I really loved that they touched on those a lot. And then you're also introduced to a new pivotal character at the exact same time, Izana, who is the head of the Tenjuku gang, who's the leader for all the, as they call them, vicious generation.
Yep.
Or the S95 generation, as they also call them, which, yeah, could be better for the name.
Yeah, it could be a lot better for the name. But, you know, we don't get paid to name things.
I get paid to name things all the time in my mind.
I was going to say, satisfaction doesn't count.
That I can't get no satisfaction. Yeah. No, in all honesty, this was a really great show. It was really good in terms of the build up for the Tenjuku fight, because you have a lot of people that go for the backgrounds, and this one you have probably 3 or 4 episodes of just straight backgrounds. Maybe 4 or 5. Actually, probably half. Yeah, I'll even go half.
Half. Almost half the season was, and normally that would annoy me, but normally that would annoy me. But the way that they did it this time made it feel more complete.
It flowed better.
Yeah, it wasn't as shoehorned.
Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, he's going to do something, and then it's like, oh, let me give you a little bit of background on this. Is how they did it. It's like X is about to happen, or X is happening. It's like, oh, well, why you say that? And then they kind of talk about it. So that's why it's like, it's where they come in and they talk about that person's background. So when you have Mikey and Draken's background happening, it's more along the lines of them leading up to that background portion of it, and then them talking about that background portion, and then them recounting the background portion of it for all the other characters.
Yeah.
Which made it better. I mean, like it was a back, what dream sequence, flashback sequence is what it ended up amounting to in a form.
Yeah, that happened as well. Any surprises for you this season? Like stuff you weren't expecting? I have mild ones, so I don't, all the big ones I was hoping for happened, but I'll give you an example. Smiley's got a twin named Angry. And Angry is kind of a badass, but he's got to cry first.
Well, I mean, like he can fight, but also at the exact same time is he becomes 100 times stronger through Smiley's own words, becomes 100 times stronger when he starts crying. He just basically blacks out and goes.
His limiter's removed.
Yeah. You are introduced to a lot of very, very strong, very, very brutal characters in this one too at the exact same time. So you had that in season 2, but it is like that in season 3 as well, except they're all there amongst each other as buddy pals and friends. Like, all right, what's going on here? And then they reaccount it with them saying, oh, all these people were in the back in the past. They were all on juvie together. And this one kid, this one kid was like, he was so badass. He was so awesome. He beat the living tar out of the guards and all the other convicts and everything like that. And it was at that moment that we were like, yes, we're going to follow him forever. I mean,
they kind of showed it, which is nice. They didn't just tell you, oh yeah, so-and-so, climbed Mount Everest by himself. Instead, they're like, they do a flashback to the entirety of the yard being just broken and bloodied, and him just, he kept punching this one guy till he couldn't stand, and then kept punching after that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, we're going to follow you now. That, to me, is way better than just blatantly being like, yeah, he beat the crap out of everybody, and he beat someone till they couldn't stand, and that's why we're following him. They showed it. It amounts to the same thing at the end of the example, but this is way better to see it, to understand it more than to think about it.
Yeah,
and obviously,
And again, them recounting all the past events and everything that has happened for everyone just really makes it that much better.
Yeah, it didn't feel tiring, which surprised me.
Yeah,
in a good way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with this one. I remember I gave the first one a relatively low score because I really didn't like it, but I'm kind of glad I stayed for the long haul, because the entire story has been fleshed out. Once, and this is just my personal opinion, but once you make it past season 1, it gets way better, because all of the things that they kind of built up in season 1, they pay out. There's a decent payout or payoff in season 2 and subsequently season 3. I'm actually looking forward to season 4, even though I'm not quite sure what it'll be about.
And I have some theories on that, and we can touch on that a little later on. Not during this episode, simply because it's going to be, it is, but they do touch on a lot of things, and you do get a resolution for a lot of it, to where I can understand coming to the end or coming to those points where you're like, okay, they have this entire thing rounded up. It's all kind of closed off. But at the exact same time, you can also see and tell, like, no, there's going to be more. There's always going to be something, because the timeline will inevitably, and I talked about this before, the timeline will inevitably try to rectify itself, going back to what it was before. Like the events or everything will inevitably try to round out to what it should be or what it's at. Yeah. And ultimately what ends up happening, it continually gets delayed, right, for the inevitable things to happen, right? So not
Yeah.
everyone just like instead of them dying on the 3rd, they died on the 4th. Instead of dying on the 4th, they died 3 months later. But the timeline just inevitably ends up rectifying itself, going back to like all these people are originally dead, or this is how everyone usually kind of pans out. Whether or not,
Yeah.
And that's not always the case though, right? Everyone that's there, we don't know if everyone was dead those first several times. We just know that it kind of happened to where at least a majority, if not all of them, were like that, But it ultimately it always ends up being that way. So I feel like it'll, again, when he goes back to the future,
think it's going to correct?
Something's going to happen, and it's going to try and correct itself to that. I feel like that's what's going to end up happening.
It makes sense. I just don't know how that would happen.
I have a theory, but that would be spoilery territory.
Fair enough.
I mean, like we're talking like end game stuff after Truck-kun made his appearance, literally, except except no one was isekai'd in that instant.
That was so satisfying. I'm not even gonna lie.
Oh, but it makes you wonder what he was about to say though, too, at the exact same time.
I mean, I got a suspicion. All
right, but we'll account that in a little bit. After we're done with the main show. But yeah, I don't know. The satisfaction that you have for this, the character growth and building and the foundation that they had from season 1 just built upon even more in season 2. They just went rock solid in season 3, beyond, above and beyond. So that when you're looking at Takemichi and you see the inspiration that he has and how he's truly affected everyone and the things that he is trying to do, it just really kind of grows, right? And,
absolutely.
And the general happenstance for all of them is just mind-boggling too at the exact same time.
Yeah, I 100%. They say that determination pays off, and I get that, and I feel like here it definitely is a focal point, because Takemichi's not strong. He's not smart. He doesn't have endurance like you'd expect. Overall, he's kind of a weak main character.
He is.
But the one thing he's got for him is he doesn't quit.
Right. Well, again, like we talked about last week, it's like just because you're not strong doesn't mean you can't be a leader. And they even
that's almost a direct quote right now.
Yeah, they and again, they talked about that in season 3. It's just because you're weak doesn't mean you can't be a leader. Like there are several qualities or different points where he is always pushing forward. And CJ in our chat goes, he doesn't quit. That's his Nindo. That is 100% his Nindo. 100% of the thing. And the fact that he doesn't really inspires, really pushes people along their route, pushes them above and beyond, right? And it inspires them. And we account, we talked about that in season 1, talked about that for season 2. And it's just more so even in season 3 where everyone was like, bro, just please stop. You're going to die. Like you will, like straight up, you will die. Just stop. And he refused. He's like, then I will die, but I will not give up. I'd rather die than give up.
Yeah. Admirable. Just fantastic writing.
Indeed. So CJ says, pushed him above and beyond was his stupid hair. I'll tell you this right now. I wish I had hair like that. I'm just saying, but also at the exact same time,
in our old age, that hairline is enviable.
It is very enviable. But at the exact same time, everyone there had some kind of ridiculous hairstyle.
Oh yeah. They all dyed their hair a certain color. It was,
or did some weird hairstyle with it, or did a pompadour or whatever else. And that's one of the endearing aspects of it, right? It's like it's one of those I don't know, feels like Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a delinquent with a heart of gold.
Yeah, basically. I mean, like That's exactly how I felt. It was one of those moments where you go, this has Yu Yu Hakusho vibes for sure.
Yeah,
100%. I enjoyed
now,
it.
one of the things that I was surprised with, and it kind of upset me, which is a good thing, I guess, because of the way the show is written. It draws you in and gives you emotionally involved. Every time some doucherama would end up bringing a weapon out, I was like, that's not fair. You should shoot him. You know? Like, how dare you make things unfair in a cartoon, in an anime?
Right.
So, I mean, completely and 100% unrealistic for me as an outsider being entertained. And yes, I was entertained. But, yeah, I was like, that's not fair. You should fight fairly. Even though I know that's not how things work.
Oh, yeah, no. That is rarely how it works. It almost never works that way. And I like that they kind of touched on that too. So like when someone was pulling out a weapon or something along those lines, it was always commented with the idea of them saying, that's not cool, dude. You shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Why? It's like it's them basically saying, why'd you bring a gun to a fist fight? That's not cool.
Yeah.
100%. Like what's going on, man? What is happening is what it ends up being. So
Yeah. Why you want to bring a gun to a knife fight? Yeah, that's exactly what. Yep.
Yeah.
I can't even deny it. That's exactly what's going on.
So
man.
I feel like we could go on a lot longer than this, but I know that you're on a very strict time crunch right now, Rick.
Unfortunately, yes.
So aside from the main key points and everything like that, there are a few very pivotal plot points that we did not touch on. And these exactly. These are things that when you watch it and you're watching it, it just blows you away. It really just kind of sets a new light for the whole thing, where you go, oh, now that makes total sense. Why X kept happening, or why this kept happening, or what's going on with this every single time, and you just can't help but go, damn.
Yeah. And there's a few surprises that are just utterly disappointing. Not because, like, how's a good way to say it? It's not that they're bad. It's just that you're like, dang it. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes way too much sense.
Yeah.
That explains everything now.
Yeah. 100%. So on a scale of up to 10, sir, how would you rate this?
I would rate this honestly really, really high. I'm not going to give it a 10, obviously, because I just don't feel it deserved a 10. But right. I'm also not going to give it a 9. There's a few things that I'd have changed, but definitely higher than a 7 like I did last time. So this one gets a solid 8 out of me. Okay. And if anything is like, if season 4 is similar to this, it's going to be a good time.
Indeed. Yeah. For me, I'm also going with an 8. I gave the last one an 8. I'm giving this one an 8. For sure, it's definitely well worth the watch. The character growth, the character development, everything having to do with it just really builds on top of it. There are certain points in this where you go, oh my God, while watching it, or you can't believe what just happened. And it really sets it apart. And how the characters grow, how they interact, how these people grow, or their total interactions, or how they view or move forward with the information about who Takemichi really is and his particular situation, just really speaks volumes, and it makes things that much better because everyone, and they even speak to the skepticism behind it, where they're like, it's hard to believe, and I don't know if I truly believe it, but I understand. But if it is, it does make sense because of all these things that have happened, all these events, every single thing that X has happened, just it totally makes sense on the sheer desperation for him every single time where he is fighting tooth and nail. It makes sense. So I'm glad how they approached it, how they tied it in, and how they wrapped up a lot of it, and how they wrapped up this major plot point for it. Yeah. Next week we're going to be talking about a movie. It's going to be a recommendation from CJ from Anime Anonymous. Very much appreciated. Thank you guys. It's going to be Inu-Oh, which is a movie. It is an interesting movie, to say the least, especially after hearing CJ and them talk about it. Go check them out, Anime Anonymous, on Spotify, iTunes, all that other stuff. We're available on Spotify, iTunes, all that other stuff as well. So until next time, I'm Jack.
I'm Rick. And we'll see you next time.